Hello, it's Sean again from Billy Goat, and this is the, as promised, demonstration of how I will paint figures that I feel need a black undercoat. So typically any figures that have black equipment, hats, black shoes, I will undercoat black because I don't like painting hats, shoes and equipment. I'm not quite sure why that is, but that is the case. So what I do is this. I get some grey paint. This is a sort of medium grey from Army Painter. It's uniform grey. You could actually, I suppose, use a light grey, but we'll see how we get on with this. So what I'm going to do is give it what I might describe as a relatively a sort of medium level dry brush. So get some paint on the bristles, dab it off, and now I'm not getting the brush completely dry here. It's not like the very sort of finest dry brush, but what I do is draw the brush down over the top of the figure in one direction, and hopefully you can see that that will highlight the raised surface of the figure whilst leaving the shadows in black. So I do it's almost like what really good painters would call a zenithal highlight. So it's like the light is hitting the figure from the top and leaving the black in the shadows. So here you can see it on this guy. You can see his hat has got quite a lot of grey on it, but underneath here it's still black. And what it does is it does a couple of things. What it does is help to highlight some of the details on the figure. So straps, canteens, ammunition boxes, and also it means that when I'm going to put some red and white onto these figures. These are British Light Infantry for the AWI, light bobs I think they're called. I'm not sure if that's because of the helmet they wear or what, but that's what they're called. I'm not sure I've got all the figures I need here, but I won't be painting the whole unit on camera. I just wanted to demonstrate this method, because sometimes you can try and describe something like a painting method, and pictures really do the work of 1,000 words. So I mean, you can get the same sort of effect if you undercoat white and then give it a black wash. It's really the same style. I'm just doing it the other way around. What it does as well is sort of gives that sort of grey highlight to the hat, to the cartridge pouch that you can see here, and also to the boots. I think they're quite high. Well, sort of calf length boots that these guys wore. Just bear with me. Yep, so what I also tend to do with these figures is paint them from the inside out. So I'll be painting the white first and then the red. So the sort of white strapping and then the red, and they would have lapels in. Probably the reference I've got here is for the 16th, the light company of the 16th foot, but so they'll have yellow cuffs and lapels, but I probably won't be able to get to that. You can just see there, I can probably get yellow in there, but what I'm going to start by doing is I'm just going to paint one of these bases, just for time's sake. The last video with the Wars of the Roses figures took over an hour, but that was painting 30 figures. This is just going to be painting 3 figures. And as I said before with the AWI figures, this really is speed painting. There's nothing subtle about my method of painting. It's about getting the colour onto the figure in the fastest possible time, in the appropriate areas. And if I make a mistake, I am highly unlikely to go back to it. So we have a bit of strap here. I'll just sort of push the paint around in that general area there. There'll be a bit of white there for the strap of the gun. This brush is on the verge of becoming, what we say in my job, US, as in unsurfaceable. But there's also a little bit of a just holding my breath whilst I paint the white across the top of the hat there. But there we go. I might as well paint the white of the strap because I've got the white paint out here. So let's just see how quickly I can get through these 3 figures. It might still look a bit too dark to some of you that struggle to pick out the details on a figure that's had a black undercoat, but it's really, there is an element of impressionism about this painting. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that it's black undercoated, and that after that relatively heavy dry brush of grey, I've still got black in the shadows, so I'm going to take advantage of that and use it to create some of the contrast that you need sometimes with these figures to make them stand out. I will be using the the Reichland flesh shade. There's the white satchel there I'm just tickling, and all the belts and strapping of these figures is white also. Seem to have got a hell of a big blob of hot glue stuck to the bottom of this figure. It's not very professional, but then again, this isn't a professional painting tutorial. This is a guide really, or this is an example of how I do the figures. If it's of any use to you, then fantastic. But I would doubt it. So on the strapping, so the detail is there and it's raised by that bit of a dry brush that I started with. But I'm, you know, similarly to the Wars of the Roses, again, I'm not being too careful or prescriptive with it, because the wash is going to come along and delineate a lot more the colours. So there's sort of wings on these fellas. It's somebody who's far more expert in painting than me could probably do a hell of a lot better job than I am. But the white is there to signify that that's what they are. Sort of wings on the shoulders of these light company troops. Sorry for that little interruption. My daughter decided at that very moment to get up and walk in. Yes, so we're painting the figure inside out. Now there's a sort of there's the regimental number and an emblem for the king on the front of these helmets, but at 15mm, what I'm going to do is add just a suggestion with a couple of sort of not quite parallel lines, I suppose, or yeah, this brush has had it. This is an absolute rogue bristle, but it's sufficient for my purposes. These aren't going to be entered into some sort of award competition. They're really just, they're wargaming pieces. So again, just a touch of white on the front of the light infantry cap. Got all three straps, yeah, right, okay, so next colour, yellow. It might have been worth me actually yeah, I think what I'll do is just add the white to the cuffs where I'm going to add the yellow to this. Line underneath here to this cuff here. So those will be yellow. And by doing it in white first, obviously yellow over a black or even a grey base coat is a difficult colour to. You need a really strong pigment of yellow, and I'm not sure that the yellows I've got are up to the task. So just by base coating them in this white first, whilst you've got the white out, you know, it's really not much of an issue, and it will pay dividends once the wash is applied. So there you go, that took a couple of seconds just whilst I made that decision. So whilst I wait for that to dry, I think what I'll do is I'll get the wood of the rifle painted and the hair. So stick with the same brush, and this is, I said in the previous video, a brown is a brown is a brown to me. I have got probably a dozen or more brown paints in my paint box, but really this is my favourite. It's a fairly neutral, flat coloured brown from Army Painter. Its coverage is really good, and it does exactly what I need. So anything that is brown in my figure collection at the moment is painted with this brown. Now I could use this to paint where I'm about to paint the red coats, and it would help, possibly help lift the red, but I think there's going to be sufficient grey on the raised areas so that won't be necessary. So there you go. This guy will be turned around. There are 3 figures to a base for light troops in Washington's army, so that's what these will represent. I've got 4 bases and a half base there. I'm not quite sure I've dug out all the figures I need. Can't quite remember, because these have been in storage for a while. Right, so you'll see the benefit now of the white, because that yellow is quite nice and bright. Obviously this will now get toned down once the wash is on, but because it's the Reichland flesh shade, I think it will still look quite a nice yellow, more so than if you use Agrax or the Nuln oil. Certainly if you want a very dirty and dim yellow, then that's what you could use. But for the AWI, I do like particularly the British to be fairly brightly coloured, uniformed. This is another example. I've put far too much red out here, and if I wasn't doing the video I'd probably put it on a few of these other figures, but I do prefer the bottles where you can work from the lid. So there's no watering down of this. This is scarlet, so it's a brighter red than some other reds, but here we go. And I think you'll see that goes on quite nicely in one coat. It is quite thick, but I think more scholarly painters out there would be flinching at how much paint I'm putting on the figure here. But I think it does the trick. There we go. As previously, highly unlikely to go back and correct errors. Emissions are slightly different if I failed to paint an area because of the speed with which I'm moving the brush across the figure and turning it around, then I will sometimes occasionally just out and out miss a sleeve, a hand, a cuff or a collar. But hopefully, it's very difficult because I'm filming this on my phone, but hopefully because of the thickness of this paint that's going on over the top of that black with the light grey dry brush, you can see the effect that you get by even colours that are traditionally difficult to paint over the top of a black undercoat. You know, that figure is those are practically done. I'm certainly not going to be highlighting now. I did see I had forgotten something. Yes, it's the white on this, so hopefully, yeah, the white's still quite wet there. I can just do the wing. I don't know if that's what they're called, that might not be the right word, but it's the sort of shoulder element, and I just need to do that turn back a bit better there. Let's just brighten that up a bit. Always worth just going around and just checking you've got the bits you want. That's absolutely fine. So 2 more colours to go. We've got silver for the canteen and the rifle. Oh, sorry, musket. British obviously don't have rifles, so I'll really just catch the end of the barrel there and then run a line down into the barrel and then across the top with the flat of the brush. Catch the other side, end of the barrel, run that down. Sometimes it goes on a little bit too thick, sometimes it's okay. It's so there's the silver for the canteen. This is a plate mail colour from Army Painter, and I've got one more colour to do, and I will have painted 3 figures in 21 minutes, minus the wash, which will be going on almost immediately, and one brush actually as well. So, and of course, skilled painters can make these Peter Pig figures look absolutely gorgeous, far better than I do. Just started to try to do that little bit of sort of definition on a face. So I wouldn't normally do that, but I tried it the other day. I thought, actually, it's a dot on the nose and then just a U shape of flesh around both cheeks and the chin, and for the amount of time it takes, well, why not? Why not indulge yourself sometimes and just try something a little bit different? But they're done, guys. They are done. I will now give them the magic wash, Reichland Flesh Shade. Now, sometimes on figures that I've got white here, then I might go in and touch it up. It just depends on how it settles, how I manage to push the ink around the figure. Because it can, even if I leave it on, it will look just like sort of campaign wear or dirt, I suppose. But as I did with the Wars of the Roses figures, I'm just going to leave it a couple of seconds, just let the flesh dry properly. But these modern acrylics, I mean, they are dry in seconds. But I quite like the look of that. They aren't the best figures that you will have ever seen in your life, but I think for the amount of time that I put into it, then the payback is substantial, really. And it's the ink now that really does the work, because the ink will create the more subtle contrast between the black and the rest of the painted figure. So I am walloping this on. It's literally a brush load each time, just to ensure the figures are covered. And then once the figures are covered, I'm going to pop the lid on because we don't want any spillages. Dry the brush off, And now we're going to get the figure up closer, and what we're going to do is push the ink around or wick away where we think there's too much. So normally off there, and it will sit in this sort of crease between the rifle, or the musket, sorry, and the body of the figure. That is a normal place where you'll find a gathering of ink. But actually, there's going to be no need for me to go over the white on this, because I'm able to wick away the bits where I think it needs to be wicked away. And there we go, we're done. They are tabletop standard 3 light bobs for the American War of Independence. There is nothing special about that painting at all. It's just knowing the figure, knowing where to put the paint, a bit like painting like colours, I suppose. There's no highlight. If I'd used the army painter on this, then the the red here would have distinctly stained a lot darker than it does with the Games Workshop figures. But there you go. So I've got 3.5 bases more of those to do. I've probably got some more somewhere else, but that's my day's painting. You've seen how I've done that. There's nothing at all complicated about it. Let's see how many paints I've used. These weren't used. So from a black undercoat, it was the medium grey, uniform grey. It was then white for the belts, the straps, the trousers. It was then the brown, my favourite brown, the leather brown from Army Painter for the muskets, hair, and just to base coat the face, just to create that extra little bit of contrast. It was then the yellow, which was for the lapels and the cuffs. It was then the scarlet for the coat. It was plate mail, silver, a sort of dullish silver, not a shiny silver. For the barrels and the canteen, it was some flesh for the face and hands, and it was a Reichland flesh shade. So 8 paints were used in the painting of these figures to a tabletop standard that I'm quite happy with, I have to say. I hope you enjoyed that. There's lots more to come on this channel. I'm really going to be ramping up the content on this channel alongside my podcast God's Own Scale, which will run in conjunction with it. And there is some exciting news coming about some sponsorship for both this channel and God's Own Scale. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell button, whatever it is that you do on these YouTube videos, because Billy Goat Wargaming is here to stay. Thank you.